approaching the end of day one of the Centre Court MBA Festival, and this theme that we've had, where can an MBA take your career? Now, where can have so many interpretations, of course, geographically and in the world your career might go, but in terms of industries, different sectors that you might be working on. So that's been our journey all day, and we've got another wonderful session planned for all of you, bringing together incredibly dynamic, internationally minded business schools from across the US. It's my pleasure to welcome back Douglas Hanslett. Douglas is the Director of Graduate Career Services and Employer Relations at the University of South Carolina, the Moore School. We also have Trista Hebe, who is the Director of Graduate Career Services at UMass in Isenberg. Lindsay Plough is joining us. She's the Deputy Director of the Graduate Career Management Center at the Baruch Zicklin, and has reassured us that the office is dried out and all of those floods have been and gone. It was just a day. New York is back in business. And also with us, Radhika Ramamurthy. Radhika is the Senior Director of MBA Programs and Student Success. You can imagine, viewers, that we were talking about that before we went live at Case Western. So thank you, all four of you, for joining us. And perhaps just briefly present your schools, but you know them so much more, and the excitement that you have for the institutions that you work in. Maybe, Trista, we can start with you. Tell us a little bit about Isenberg, about the school, that energy, and everything that you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So Isenberg School of Management is the business school for the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is the flagship campus for the UMass system. It's a land-grant Research One institution. And thinking about our MBA program, we have about 1,500 online MBAs, so that's our largest online population. And then we have about 80 students who are actively taking courses in an on-campus immersive experience. So that is strategically small, fully funded, and a little bit more of those career pivoters versus our career enhancers in our online MBA program. And so Isenberg really has opportunities, whether you're thinking about online education or in person. And we also have a hybrid model, which is really the best of both worlds. So you can take classes in Boston or Worcester. So those are kind of our formats, but realistically, one MBA program, same degree, same faculty, and same rigor. So.
Well, it's going to be great to explore how those different formats and perhaps the expectations, acceleration versus immersion and change. Lindsay, I'm sure you see both of those things at the Zicklin School. Tell us a little bit about life in New York.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So the Zicklin School of Business is part of Baruch College, and our campus sits really in the center of it all, right near Madison Square Park, if you're familiar with the city. And our graduate programs are across MS programs, full-time MBA, as well as evening MBA. A lot of our students come because it's affordable. We have a really affordable program with really great faculty. And so we are known for really social mobility. So students that come in making a certain amount and coming out making maybe twice that amount. And so personally, I've been at Zicklin for a little over a decade. And that's why I've stayed, because I get to see these transformations happen. I get to see really these life-changing stories that I get to be a part of. So it's really an exciting place to be.
Well, I'll prepare all of my panelists now. Later on, I'd love to hear some of those stories, because of course you see them coming into the school, this transformation, and off they go just when they graduate, and then in the years that follow. Douglas, we were saying, of course, such an international focus at Moore, one of the hallmarks of a great institution.
Sure, yeah. No, the Darnell Moore School of Business is the business school in the University of South Carolina. We are positioned right in the middle of the state of South Carolina, with Charlotte on one side and Atlanta, Georgia on the other side, kind of the gateway down the south, maybe Nashville and Tampa on the lower end. So really heart of the Southeast, which is growing quite rapidly. The full-time MBA program has two parts. We have a 2-year international IMBA where we're #1 ranked in the country, with a great presence and depth throughout the world with our international MBA and in the United States. We have another full-time MBA program for a lot of our 1 years, if you will, more of a fast track. And then we have a full-time or a professional MBA comprised of our evening and online programs as well. So really a good, well-rounded program for all suits and types, depending what your work schedules or needs are and/or industry interest afterwards, domestically or globally.
Right. Now, the Weatherhead School, Radhika, and I must ask, Case Western household name, the Reserve. Of course, you're such a believer in the results that you see, the outcomes that you enjoy. You have no reservations. Where does the Reserve of Case Western come from?
I think there were two parts of it. There was Case, and then there's Western Reserve University. So they both kind of combined, and that's how that name came about. So a little bit about my school, Weatherhead School of Management. We are the business school at the Case Western Reserve University, located in Cleveland, Ohio. We take pride in the fact that we are a boutique school located in the heart of the healthcare hub and the manufacturing belt in terms of industries. And we're not limited to that boutique school because our class sizes are small, and we take pride in that because every faculty knows every student, every staff member knows every student. And so that student success piece of it is very, very effective because as the student walks in through the door, we know them very well. We make sure that they are, heard to and catered to, and custom care is provided as they go through the program. And we have 4 programs in the MBA suite, one being the 2-year full-time MBA program, which is a mixed bag of career pivoters and enhancers. And then we have our part-time MBA program, which is offered in the hybrid model, which is an excellent way to, make sure people who are working professionals have that work-life balance and choose the way they want to learn. Then we have a part-time MBA, which is 100% online. And currently we offer a healthcare track to make sure we are leveraging the strengths of the area. And then we have the executive MBA program, which is for the boardroom level executives. And those are the 4 programs we currently offer in our school right now.
I love just the fact that with 4 panelists, from healthcare to biotech in Massachusetts, we've got international perspectives in South Carolina, and then everything New York has to offer. So I always feel for our viewers as they're thinking about the next steps, to be able to bring you all together and share perspectives and such remarkable institutions. I suppose one question, Trista, for you.
Yeah.
In the dialogue that you have with recruiters, whether it's in that hybrid model or someone that is adding online studies to a busy day job, do they then sort of reflect, what we love about Isenberg students, they roll up their sleeves and they're real doers? Do your students have a reputation?
They do, yeah, definitely a reputation of drive and collaboration, but really that spirit, right? Especially in our online MBA, those are working professionals. They have worked all day, they're rolling up their sleeves at night, they're probably putting kids to bed, and they're logging on for accounting, right? So they have that tenacity and that drive to continue on. So when I work with recruiters, we really look at the portfolio of opportunities and kind of what makes sense for outreach plans for our students, whether it be maybe someone who's 3 to 5 years out, and maybe they are in the on-campus MBA, maybe they're 10 plus years out, and they're working professionals that are looking to advance in a role or maybe make a change but stay within industry, or they're completely shifting. So our students do have that reputation of seeking opportunities that challenge them, and then also fit in with what their needs are as professionals and what they've kind of developed throughout their time.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, Lindsay, I guess with New York and the sort of career development that you see, great determination. Is it that, these are individuals that can bring everything they learn and apply it in a professional context? There's a very practical side to their learning.
Yeah, very practical side. For our curriculum in particular, we have a capstone consulting course, which is really great. And so within that consulting course, they are doing exactly that. They are applying what they're learning in the classroom to businesses in and around New York. And we've had businesses range from tech startups to nonprofits. So that part of the MBA curriculum really gives them an opportunity to apply those skills that they're learning.
Right. We were saying before we started recording, Douglas, of the global dimension of business schools, not only that you're attracting students from all over the world, but for businesses that themselves are operating all over the world. Is that something, again, where recruiters will say, that's the sort of mindset that we need, and that's what we see from more graduates?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's hard not to be the number one ranked internationally, not have that global perspective. But I think thematically, we have other things as well. I mean, we're very well known for the data analytics across the board. I mean, if you're financial, you're clearly doing financial modeling with data analytics. If you're market, you're doing market research with data analytics. Your strategy, supply chain, same things apply. But on the softer side, you're going to see and hear a lot about your experiential learning and being able to communicate that data analytics across the board, being able to have abstract critical thinking as you're applying this experiential learning and capstones and case competition work, if you will. That's what I think they kind of tend to know us up beyond just being global and heavily international.
Right. Radhika, with my co-host, John Byrne, the editor-in-chief of Poets and Quants, we started Centre Court 6-7 years ago. He'd sit down with deans and say, where will business schools have the most impact in the next 10, 20, 30 years? And we talked about big data. We talked about analytics, as Douglas just mentioned. But they all said healthcare. Now, this was before we had a global pandemic. Having a specialization with that, and even the conversations that you then have with individuals, some that want to have that broader general management versus the specialization. How do you like to sort of help them to think about being very specialized in a sector versus the broader skills that are going to serve in their career?
Very, very, very good question. So I think what we try to, any business school works with students to make sure that they're resilient, they're adaptable, and that they're well-rounded when they come out of the management school. And when I say well-rounded, healthcare industry specifically, because you asked about it, we have this healthcare track which focuses on case studies which are in healthcare, which focuses on residencies where students are experiencing, meeting doctors, meeting healthcare service providers, meeting, people from the insurance sector, people from the international office in a Cleveland Clinic or any of the hospital systems around, to know and learn about how they function. And that experience is not limited to a student in the healthcare track. It can be a student who's in the general management track too, because it only adds value to what they are learning. And we do this by providing a lot of experiential learning opportunities for our students who are not only in the healthcare track of an MBA program, but also in the part-time MBA or in the executive MBA or in the full-time MBA. It depends on a student's interest and where they want to take it forward. The specialization comes when a student chooses to do it the way they want to do it. And then we have plenty of electives and courses in areas where we can kind of push them and say, this is what you should be taking because you're interested in this. I hope I answered that question.
Absolutely. And whether we're looking at healthcare or more broadly, I guess just as we think about the class of 2023, it's a tougher job market. I mean, 2021, 22, it was almost overhiring. There were so many opportunities. But when you break that down into different sectors, what are you seeing at a more granular level and the sort of opportunities that this class is exploring?
Yeah, we're seeing this class certainly looking into life sciences. So our on-campus MBA population has a partnership with an institute on our campus called the Institute for Applied Life Science, and it is an incubator for Massachusetts. And our MBAs actively work in that incubation system to work with PhD students, to work with Massachusetts startups, to look at life science areas that they can, from a business lens, help them with angel seed investment, looking at the marketability, looking at the target market. Is it a viable product to bring to market? What is the lifespan? How long will this take? And so our students, whether they have healthcare backgrounds or not, are looking at this really unique lens of opportunity from a startup and a health perspective. And they're actually involved in seeing something through fruition, which can take years, obviously, but it's a really exciting time. So a lot of our students are certainly looking to life sciences and looking for careers that will have an impact, on the greater good, on their communities, on, the global reach. And so they're really looking to pivot into roles that they can make a difference in.
Right. You were saying, Lindsay, how much you've enjoyed the last 10 years at Zicklin, an institution that you're just really proud of and identify with. As we think of what would have been the class of 2013 and all of those in between, sometimes the media will over focus on one class, 1 year, perhaps tougher this year than it was the previous year. As you then step back and the work that you do with all of your students for the next steps of your career, how do you help them to think not just about that first job after business school, but all of the other positions that it will be leading to?
Great question. I think sometimes students can get into analysis paralysis and get really deep into, well, if I accept this, then I'm in banking for the rest of my life. And so that's definitely our job as a coach, is to think about, well, what will you learn from this experience? How will this job set you up for your next job? How will this experience add to your skill set? So that's a lot of what we do with our coaching team is to help think about this experience as professional development for them. But it has been interesting over the last 10 years or so, reflecting back on the different career paths that we've seen. And as Trista mentioned, some of the students being more interested in roles where they have an impact. So definitely having more conversations around corporate social responsibility, for example, which is difficult to get into, but nonetheless, it's an area they're interested in. Or maybe it's having that impact, but working at a nonprofit in a leadership role. So I've seen a shift in values and career values, whereas in the past, I saw more of the traditional investment banking and consulting. I have seen a shift in more of those impact type of roles. We still have the traditional finance and consulting that they're interested in, but that's been interesting to see.
And when they come to you, Douglas, perhaps at the beginning of their first year, it's like, I see this job title in financial services or as a consultant, as Lindsay was describing. From your experience, you've then witnessed the exploration in so many different conversations. They'll have connections they're going to make at USC more. So how do you help them to be very open-minded about the sort of opportunities they've now got the chance to explore?
Multiple ways, I guess. In many ways, we just throw a lot of companies at them over a short period of time. There's a screen that I put up on the first day of class, which says my job over the next several weeks during our career course is to get you from a very wide box to a tight box. You can have multiple boxes, but I want you to try and get down one path. And to get to that path, we have one panel per week, every week between mid-July through early September. And by the time those panels, and they're done by industry, so technology and banking and CPG, marketing, we go down a bunch of panels. By the end of the class where we have them in, they've seen 50 to 60 companies right in 2 months. And then all the conferences set up, right? The National Black MBA, the Vet MBA. And by the time we're about now, just literally 2 weeks ago, we had 200 companies on campus in 1 week between our own expo and other panels we were having on each side of it. So 500 companies over a 4-month period, you may go, wow, but we're trying to guide them down a path, linearly speaking, within their interests that we've learned about, working with them on a concierge level over that course of that coursework of the career course track, and try to get them to that 1 or 2 boxes if they need to go that way. So there's assessments, there's interests, there's skills. Skills certainly have got to play a role in where we think they can go and guide them that way. And as they get to see both recruiters and alumni across the board of various industries, they generally start to align. They start to get an aha moment and begin to really filter it down. I'd say a third to a half of our students will have their either internship or full-time job by middle of November.
Well, I hope, Douglas, with the senior leadership role that you have, that you have your parking spot set aside, because when 200 companies all come in at the same time, that would be a long walk to the front door. Radhika, you were talking about how you'd been rethinking, you talked about pods and sort of the student experience and how careers, for the student success outcomes that your job title describes. So talk a little bit how that works. And again, it's fitting in with everything that they're learning, but the career track that you're exposing them to.
Sure. So I think student success was born with the thought where we said there is a red thread that carries through the fact that there is an academic component, there is a student experience component, there is the career component, right? If we make sure that we see a common thread that goes through all through from start to end, we are setting them up for success. And so on the career front, where we start is on the fact that we get to know these students right after they're admitted into the program. Then they go through the academic piece where they're going through a particular course called leadership development, where they're developing themselves as leaders. And in that course, they do something called a vision and values exercise, where they're aligning their values with where they want to be and where they see themselves in a few years. So we pick that up and we hear that from our students, and we work with them as coaches to make sure that we are guiding them along the way by exposing them to a lot of industries, alumni, industry leaders, allowing them to do like career assessment interviews of people they are interested in and the areas of interest where they think they don't know anything about, but they think they can try. So, it's just about just as Doug said, exposing them to a lot and then kind of narrowing that funnel down to make sure that they are open-minded as they enter the process, and then they make that pathway. And, we have students who go through this internship experience and they come back in the summer and say, I know I said I want to be in the operations management area, but I think I want to be in business strategy in this industry. So if they come back with that vision, we've done a job very well because they've been open-minded for more than 3 semesters, and they're just soaking it all in and ready to make that change because they believe in themselves. So, right. Having that resilience to keep marching forward, knowing that they are tracking along the pathway and believing in the experiences through clubs and the action learning projects, experiential learning projects. That's what makes them successful as they finish the program.
Douglas has talked about how important early on to expose the students to many, many companies. Radhika was talking about industry leaders that are coming onto the campus. Now, those first-year students, you're then also thinking about the role that a summer internship or a company project might play. Take me through that preparation, and also the idea that when they come back from that internship, start year 2, do you see a difference in the individual that returns from the internship?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So our orientation program is a 3-day immersive experience at the very end of August for our first-year students. And like Radhika, we do a life design model, and we really start to draw out their values, what their interests are, what path they think they want to go down, right? Because anyone who's done admissions or career services they don't know what they don't know until they're exposed to other opportunities. And those opportunities can come in the form of authentic conversations with alumni, which we deeply encourage, right? Find somebody in a role that you want to be in and ask them what brings them joy in their day. What are their experiences? What do they like about that position? What skill sets are required? Ask those questions, and then just let the alumni or the contact have those discussions and formulate that thought of what that student's interests are heading into that first semester, because we all know consulting, tech, depending on their areas, they're recruiting, early July, maybe end of June, and they're closing out end of September. So we start early in that August time frame to try to identify, you might say you like consulting, but we might be having conversations with alumni. You might be experiencing things early on in class that you're probably going to pivot, right? Or like you mentioned, they go on these internship experiences, which in my mind are as much about what they don't like than what they do, right? That discovery, that's what it is a discovery process. And so I've seen many times a student come in and say, I want to go into finance, or I want to go to analytics. And then they come out of their internship and they say, I really don't want to go down that path. It wasn't what I thought it was. Or they absolutely love it. They have that offer. They're so excited. And they come in a whole different light with a whole different mindset. Second year is a different journey for them. So it's exciting to see that transformation, but also be by their side, having our coaches work with them to identify early and often what is that changing landscape in their career trajectories.
Right. Lindsay, I'd love to come back to what you raised in terms of a generation with a very strong sense of purpose of what they're looking for in their careers. And also, if we think about the MBA experience, they might have classes in finance, in strategy, digital marketing, operations, so many different things that you then offer. And yet you and your team are offering such a deeply personalized approach, to help them explore and think those things through. So, the mentoring, the coaching, the experts, share that magic box of how you actually work to also then, with all of that, help them to identify their true path and the things that they're really passionate about.
Sure. So one of the great things about our full-time MBA program in particular at Zicklin is that it's a smaller cohort. So it's on average about 40 to 45 students that all start together. So similar to my colleagues here, we also do an orientation in August where we start that process early. We use multiple assessments to identify their strengths, identify their values, because without kind of having that foundation, that self-assessment, they're sort of just, throwing the pasta at the wall and seeing what sticks. So we have to, first take a step back and look at, what are your interests? What are your values? And also, what are you coming in with? So what past skills and experience and perhaps languages, close to half of our full-time MBA is international. So what languages do you speak that you could also leverage perhaps in that new internship or new field? So really, looking at that personalized coaching, a lot of the magic happens in those one-on-one sessions. And because we have a smaller cohort, we are, well equipped to work with all of our students and do that really tailored search. So what are you coming in with? What are the skills you have? What are your interests? What are your strengths? Where are you thinking going forward? And what are the different steps that you could take to get there? We see ourselves really as a guide, as a partner. Right? They're the ones that are driving their career, and we are there in the passenger seat, just helping to provide directions and to provide that roadmap for them.
So sort of accompanying them on this transformational journey, but the world outside isn't stopping either. And Douglas, the focus on big data analytics that obviously USC Moore has really developed as a core strength. But Center Court, 12 months ago, October 2022, I'm not sure if we were talking about AI. We certainly weren't talking about ChatGPT, and yet here we are. It's all that anyone was talking about in the first 6 months of the year, and how it will have an impact on the market. How do you then like to talk with your students about whether it's a technological advancement, different global geopolitical conditions, and how they integrate that into the sort of the skills and the steps of a career that they're building?
Great question. I'll just sidebar. We use AI pretty heavily in our training, actually. In fact, I'm speaking on a seminar next Wednesday on the using AI and the tools of job search and job preparation with 4 other speakers on the panel. It's integral to what we lead, and we, both from the technological side, we try to implement it, but to your question, in terms of thinking about the industries and the roles and where it's coming. Again, while there may be a magic box on what we do tools-wise, there isn't a magic crystal ball that forecasts the future. But what we recommend simply is reading and reading and reading and reading to try to understand as many trends that are happening within your industry and your industry players, right? Because, you know, recession is going to impact certain industries differently. And whether we're the hard landing we were, predicting last year or the soft landing now, what happens? What happens to rates? What happens? Well, I literally come into each class talking about kind of nuanced items in the news. What happened? What did rates happen here? What did this company do? What was the headline on this? And just make them think and understand the disciplines and how each of those changes could impact their own sector. We tend to try and focus on the 4 sectors: marketing, supply chain, strategy, finance. But each of those 4 functional areas have very different disciplines and impacts with what's going on in the global economy and landscape. To Lindsay's point earlier, ESG, hotter than Hades, still is. And it's one of the most growing areas. There's not many roles defined. I had a student 2 years ago that had the choice to go into strategy or a new role in ESG for a large firm. I said, take ESG all day, because in 4 years, you're going to be hugely valuable because there's not enough people out there doing it in leadership. Strategy, you can do all day. You can always come back to strategy. So you can't predict the future, but you can try and research and read as much as you can to understand what are dynamics. And I have one entire presentation that a center part is about the great hockey line. You want to go where the puck is moving. Don't go where the puck is now. You've got to try to anticipate a little bit. But for one of your questions earlier, I'm not trying to let them think 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road, because they're going to change. You can think industry-wise or career-wise a little bit, but I guarantee what you come out of business school doing, you're likely not going to be doing in 20 years.
Right. And with these big sort of macro themes, Radhika, is it making that connection to an individual? And if they've either got the mindset, the skill sets, however these different aspects continue to change the future of work and how we all operate, is it simply that you're ensuring that weatherhead students are equipped to be agile and to adapt to those changes?
Absolutely. I mean, the mantra is to be resilient, to be adaptable, and to make sure that you think of any toolkit, like AI, for example, as something that's going to be relevant for a few years, so I might as well learn it. So the example we keep giving our students is Excel was nowhere in the picture many moons ago. Then you adapted to it. And then now 8th graders are learning Python in school, so you might as well learn. And now Python is outdated. So, you adapt to the newest things, at least know and be aware, and be very socially responsible, be ethical in the way you use it. And we kind of integrated AI to make sure that they see how it can be used in businesses for them to, succeed and learn and use as they go into these internships and full-time opportunities. And again, as I said, to make sure that they know that these skills are relevant for them as they go 10 years out in terms of their career trajectory. So we make sure we talk to them through those things. And also, as Doug said, we don't know how to predict what's coming in the future, but if you keep reading, if you keep meeting people, if you go to the panel sessions, if you go and network at conferences, you are hearing the key buzzwords, and you educate yourself and you read and you equip yourself.
Perhaps for too long, Trista, we sort of contented ourselves with, well, it's really binary. We've got hard skills and we've got soft skills. And there are great quant skills, analytical skills that might go in one basket. When I think about the sort of support that you and your colleagues in careers are offering, interpersonal, interviewing, networking, all of these things, how do you ensure that you're also equipping students with the sort of skills that will help in the way that they communicate, the way they tell stories, and everything else?
Yeah, when our students come in for orientation and then beyond, we really try to set the bar at like, we are going to explain the resources and the tools and how to engage with alumni and how to outreach and how to build authentic relationships that are going to last the life of your academic career, but then also beyond, right? And so culturally, we also have students who come in who are not used to networking in the way that we do in the US. It is not a comfortable situation. And our coaches have to have these conversations and help them feel comfortable in who they are, right? Feel confident in what they're asking, and also understand that our alumni have been in their seats, right? They know what they want to share with them, and they're an open door for exploring careers and opportunities. But some of our students coming in, are nervous about those soft skills, and they're much more comfortable on the hard skills. And our job, right, as career professionals has really morphed into understanding the collaboration between those skill sets and how, that teamwork, that collaboration, that empathy, everything that the business world's looking for, how we can provide the support and the guidance to see our students off. So it's certainly, now more so than ever, become a focus for us, right? How do you build those relationships when you don't need anything? How do you have these conversations without asking for the internship? And really, how do you drive your network in a way that supports your career, but then also your life continuing on?
Now, the participants at Centre Court, Lindsay, whether they're following us live or they'll be watching this in the weeks and months ahead, let's assume fairly safely that they're going to do an MBA once. There's one chance to do the Zicklin MBA. And so picking up on, Trista talking about a comfort zone, here's an opportunity perhaps to go beyond that comfort zone, learn new things about yourself. And if you can achieve that, how rewarding that will be. I mean, is that a dynamic that you see all the time of people through the MBA going beyond their comfort zone?
Absolutely. The first semester especially, there is so much going on with recruiting and the amount of opportunities they have to learn and to meet with companies. So my best piece of advice always is just to be a sponge. You don't know what you don't know. So just go to everything that you can, take everything in, learn everything. And it really is pretty amazing seeing them go from, the first couple weeks of I have no idea what I'm doing to I got this interview with Citi. I got this internship with Citi. I had a great experience, right? Or maybe I don't want to be with Citi. And so you definitely see that progression over the 2 years. And just in terms of balance, we talk a lot about balance with our students and is that such a thing? And it really depends on the time of year. So September and October, it's chaotic and it's tough to find balance. But those are some of the things that we work with them on. So we're not just a typical resume and cover letter shop. We try to really emphasize that in the beginning. We are here to really support you. And if that is with time management or just checking in and saying, hey, I'm stressed and I haven't done anything to search for my internship in the last month, like, where do I begin? That's a place for us to start, right? And so we really try to remove those, barriers to perfection, right? That they sort of know what they're doing, because they don't. This is their first time being in an MBA program, usually. So,
right. In finding that balance, of course, the alumni have been in their shoes. And Douglas, we couldn't have a panel on careers without bringing in the alumni. They must play such a proactive and important role for mentoring, guidance, opening up opportunities. Talk us through why you think alumni are so important to the MBA experience.
Most importantly, because they've been there, right? They've sat in their seats and been in their shoes. They've gone through the attempts to network, the attempts to go down paths, and they really do have a sense of what they're doing. We have 12 to 15 alumni Citi visits for the school. We go every year. to New York, to Philadelphia, to San Francisco, to Dallas, a lot of the Carolinas, the Georgia, Southeastern, but then everywhere else there. Up 15 cities usually. The dean comes along, and we are there leveraging our alumni. They're truly alumni events, and we encourage our MBAs to travel and go to some of these events if there are employers or key alumni that they think they would like to meet and try to leverage and network with, if there's some value there. On top of that, on those panels that I mentioned, again, we started a little earlier than everybody here. We started at last week of June, and orientation is that week, and then July and August is the career leadership program. And I started at admissions. A lot of my kind of high interest candidates I'm dealing with at admissions level of what they want to do, and I'm already introducing to alumni. And so we're thinking kind of at advance where we think they're going to go and try to pull out which way they want to go and start identifying key alumni from the minute go, knowing we're going to be going to XYZ city in October, September, November, January, whatever the case may be. So very instrumental, the alumni component of it. We leverage 1220 as a resource too in their alumni tool within 1220, within our own More Connect, which was a LinkedIn-based alumni network tool that students have access to as well. So yeah, it's a big factor that you try to do, because most students are going to not get it just applying online. They're either going to try through alumni or try through a family or try through our office to get a network in beyond just the old applying blindly into a pool and hope you catch a line.
Yeah, with the lifelong relationship, Radhika, and this will be true of all 4 schools. You've supported them. They've got that first position that we described as a stepping stone as they come out of business school. But so often 2 years, 3 years out. Is that a continuing dialogue, and that alumni themselves will come back for a little bit of guidance for the next interview 3 years into their career?
Absolutely. So much like Doug said, they are key. They're absolutely key to any business school or any school, I would say, because they are the wealth of knowledge. They are the mirror for us to see what we did well and where are the gaps. And they are the ones who will give us honest feedback because they're vested in the school. So we definitely keep in touch with them by bringing them back into the classroom to talk about their stories. We bring them back as career panelists to talk to our students. We bring them back to teach courses. We bring them back as faculty members. We bring them back on our advisory boards, in our different ways to basically engage them. We had an experiential learning course which basically walks through the life cycle of a product, and here is an alum teaching that course. So the lens through which that they showcase themselves to the students based on what they've learned, what they've done, and what they bring to the table is just absolutely priceless. And we keep engaging with them because as they make those next moves, we know that we want to keep in touch, not only for their growth, but to make sure that we are able to tap onto their network and make sure that they are coming back to our school and giving and paying forward. I call it paying forward and not giving back.
That's the prism with which to look at that. And Trista, we talked about transformational experiences, whether from the boutique consultancy to the big 4, breaking into life sciences. As you reflect on individuals that you've seen in admissions, because you've also had that role, and then you've watched this journey, an example or an anecdote of someone where it's like, wow, look at what they've just achieved.
Yeah, I mean, every single graduating class, right, literally touches me because I've seen what they have experienced and what they've gone through and those struggle points, even if they've forgotten it into the second year and things seem different. I watched that journey that they, kind of changed and they turned around their trajectory. So I could think of many examples, but one in particular, a student from a theater background, completely liberal arts, completely different than anything else. And that's a lot of what our program, like I said, is on campus is 80 students. That's 2 classes. So 40 to 45 in each cohort. And a lot of them are very diverse and not coming from business backgrounds. And they're exploring, they are truly exploring. We're looking at their transferable skills, they're meeting people, they're at events, they're super engaged. And, and then they do that internship, they have maybe a change. And then they are moving into a completely different, maybe global finance job or something that you would never have anticipated that they found their passion for. And so that, I think, and I can speak for all four of us, is probably the most exciting part of being in career services, when someone says, I got this job, and you scream for joy, but they did the work, right? We just supported their efforts. So it's an amazing part of, I think, why we do what we do.
Well, Lindsay, if I can finish with you in 10 years and still a smile that says, I love what I do, why? Why do you love what you do? What is the wonderful reward from the last 10 years?
Impact on student lives. So as you were talking just now about those changes, it brought to mind an opera singer I worked with who left business school as an accountant. So, I mean, just so many stories like that where you maybe didn't quite see where their journey would take them. And because of the consistent sort of practice of digging their heels in and exploring and really partnering with them on that, and then getting them at the end, seeing them in the role that they dreamed of. It's that, that's why I do what I do, and I'm sure we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, there's a very popular post on LinkedIn that talks, I think, about 4 forms of luck. Some forms of luck are purely random, but others are based on connections and people that we consciously try to meet. And a common comment is, gosh, I wish I'd known this at the age of 20. I wish I'd met all 4 of you at the age of 20, because much as I've enjoyed my career, it's been very haphazard and lots of the best intentions. But when just as I hear you describing the level of support, the level of thoughtfulness in the work that you all provide, and that constant support, the cheerleading, and you can do this, the self-belief that you give, for us to be able to capture that at Centre Court is a real gift. So Trista and Lindsay, Douglas, Radhika, thank you for that contribution. Thank you for being with us and sharing so much of that encouragement and people creating their own luck. It was great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
for the
you.
opportunity.